Hey, so I wanted to share a metaphor that I've been working on for a long time, and a friend really appreciated it recently, so I'm going to share it with you all. And this is the operating metaphor I have for society and the conundrum that we're all in. So, a long time ago, 10 years or more, I just realized that as a society, we're all part of the system. We got to work to live. We got to put in our efforts, whatever industry we're in, to uh, to buy food and pay our rent and utilities and stay warmed and clothed and all that. And so I got frustrated by that, and the metaphor, or I got frustrated by the fact that it seems like our society is headed for a bad end, towards a cliff, if you will. So the metaphor is that we're all in this boat, and we're headed towards a waterfall if we don't change the direction. And we've been going in this direction for a long time. The waterfall is getting closer and closer. Climate change, the disruption of our ecosystem that is going to threaten our civilization. And it's already threatening our civilization with the fires and floods and hurricanes and everything. And that's increasing. Um, and so society's like a boat that we're all in together. And we, everything we do makes the boat go forward. Everything that we do contributes to climate change. Driving to work, flying to see family or travel, burning of heating our homes, ordering something offline. It burns fossil fuels, and these fossil fuels are heating the planet. And I wanted to get out of that system, and I thought I could like drop out of society. I thought I could get away from the boat, and I was like, oh, I'm going to jump in the water and swim to shore. And it turns out there's no shore. There's just the boat. Uh, so I came back to the boat. And this boat is like society in that it has a hierarchy, tiers. There's like the working class people who are hustling and working for our living. And that's equivalent to like rowing, like it's like the bottom of the boat and you got the oars and everyone's like rowing, just like doing their work. And in exchange, they're getting fed, and warmth and taken care of to a certain extent. Um, and then the tiers above that are like the people with the resources who are feeding us, like our bosses, but they're also like getting fed by their bosses, by the system. And then there's like the leaders, the politicians, and the super wealthy who are kind of distributing resources and deciding where to go, steering the boat. But uh, they're not all working together. And the hard part is that like everyone is dependent on the interconnectedness of the system to continue status quo. And it's really hard to disrupt the status quo because it's the momentum that we're all accustomed to, and it's the status quo that keeps us fed on a daily basis, that provides for our basic needs. And what's frustrating is that even if I know that my work, my rowing, is contributing to climate change and propelling us towards this waterfall of destruction, I still need that food. So the image I have is like I'm rowing, and I'm like, as I row, I'm like being fed like dangling meat, and it's like, oh, I like that. That's like a reward. I better keep rowing. The harder I work to try to get ahead or whatever, to provide for my family, to provide comfort and security, is like a myth, a false sense of security in the long holistic picture, because we're all propelling ourselves towards this precipice of doom. And so the question is like, how do we change the direction of this boat, right? Some people want to, yeah, we could lobby and or persuade our leaders, the people steering the boat, to turn away from climate change, renewables, and like that needs to happen. And I wonder, like with the idea of a strike or the way that we do our work, can we row in a slightly different way that changes the direction of the system. The most frustrating part, though, is that there's some people for whom they are more rewarded better by the rowing. So some people are scraping by and they're rowing as hard as they can to juggle family and work and the drama of everyday life, and they're getting just enough food to eat. And then there's other people, wealthier people, white collar people who uh, row, and it's like not that hard to row, and they're getting like lots of food. And it's like, why would they, asking them to change the direction that they're rowing is even harder almost, because the system's really seemingly working for them, that they're getting handsomely rewarded materially for their part in the system. Um, so there's no easy prescription for how to undo this system, but it's helpful for me to think about this as like the interconnectedness and the stuckness of our patterns and our momentum towards this waterfall, and thinking about how to, uh, like if somehow we could stop rowing or row in a different direction and still have our needs met. So can we break that? Can we interrupt that feedback pattern of like, oh, if I row us towards climate change, I get fed. What if I rowed us away from climate change? Can I still get fed? Can I find a way to use my everyday patterns for subsistence that acts in the benefit, or disrupts the pattern and the momentum? And that's really hard to do also, but I think that's a really important option that we need to develop, because ultimately, if we just sit with this metaphor, there's destruction ahead. There's lots of pain and suffering, and we don't know exactly when it's going to hit us. Like, when is the fire going to burn down my house, or when is the flood going to take out my town? We don't really know, and so it's like this little internal calculus about when is it safe for me to disrupt my pattern, or when do I need to disrupt my momentum? Um, when's my part of the boat gonna start getting flooded? Um, so that's the conundrum, and ultimately, it's like the powers in the people, because even if as we've seen with the pandemic, like if the government does like take the wheel and like, hey everybody, we gotta like turn our society and make drastic changes, people are gonna the mass majority of people are gonna say like, hey, like I like the moment, I like this is disruptive to my status quo, and I had plans and goals of like saving up for to buy a home and all this. So that doesn't leaders can't really lead in that way, because people without their consent are going to revolt. And so it requires that we have a critical mass of people who are rowing the boat, and who are in charge of the resources, to change the incentive structure so that we can both maintain our livelihoods while not contributing to the same direction that our society is going in. So how do we do that? It's really tricky. One thing that's really important is talking about what do we actually need versus what have we just become accustomed to. And so if we get in touch with what our actual needs are, like safety, security, family, community, meaning, um, then we can search out those things. And it's not just money. It's like we don't really need just money. We need the things that money can buy. And granted, those things are controlled by a certain class of people, landowners, for instance, for rent. Um, and those rent collectors are committed to the system by and large. So it definitely, like, we have to go up the hierarchy to shift it. We can't just do it at a core level, but ultimately we need to like create a new incentive structure and a new reward system to allow for people to get on board with shifting the direction of the boat, so that when our leaders do turn steering wheel and we do start to try to avoid this waterfall, uh, that we're ready for it. And or, if we do go off the waterfall, we're ready for that too. So anyway, that's just the metaphor I think about all the time. And that, like, when I buy food from the store and when I buy my clothes, whatever, this is all a part of the momentum. And I want to I want to contribute to that as little as possible. And I want to contribute as much as possible towards the changing of the direction of the boat. So that metaphor is what I wanted to share. If you have any insights, please chime in the comments. Take care of yourselves, Bob.